how to create your collage digitally in Photoshop. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to File and go down to New. And we've already made this size before. We're going to make sure that we have last name, underscore. This is our collage project. And then our width is going to be 9 inches. Our height is going to be 12, and our orientation is going to be vertical. Our resolution is continued to stay at 100, and then our background content should be white. And we'll go ahead and say create. So you should go ahead and open. You'll notice I've got all of my collage elements I'm going to be work with. Make sure that those are already open right now. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to the portrait. I'm going to start with the portrait first so that I can demonstrate how to make your selections. So I've got my portrait open, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the selection tool. So right underneath of the move tool is my selection tool, and we're going to start with the first option, which is going to be our rectangular marquee tool. And so if I click and drag, that will allow me to make a selection within my image. And so I can kind of move that around if I need to. If for some reason you don't like that selection or need to make your selection again, I can go up to select and just say deselect, and it'll deselect that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to select my image and the portion of the image that I want to work with. I'm going to go down to edit, copy, and I'm going to go back to my new document that I'm working with. I'm going to go edit, and then I'm going to paste it into my new document. So I'm going to go edit, paste, and you'll notice right now that it's a really large image, and so the resolutions aren't matching. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit and go down to free transform, which is also Command T. And so what I'm going to do is just going to click and drag, and I'm going to make that portrait a little bit smaller. All right. Once you're happy with the resizing of your element, go ahead and just double click inside of it and that'll apply it. So I got my first way of bringing in an image. This is a rectangular selection. Now I'm going to go to one of my patterns. And so if I click and hold underneath the rectangular marquee tool, I've got an elliptical marquee tool. Hold down shift and you'll make a perfect circle for your selection. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up to edit, copy, and you're welcome to use the key command. So Command C. I'm going to go back to my document, and then I'm going to go edit, and I'm going to go paste. And you can also use Command V. So now I have a circular selection. I'm also going to go back to another one. I'm just going to quickly make a marquee selection tool so you can kind of see the range of different types of selections that we can make. So, and you'll notice I've copied and pasted this into my new document. You'll see that it's sitting on top of my portrait. All I need to do is click and drag my layer, and it might be that I want to actually put that behind my image that I'm working with. And so once again, I can do Command T, and I can resize it. Now be careful, if you resize it too much, it gets really pixelated, and we don't want that. So if you start to notice the image is getting pixelated, please stop and make it a little bit smaller so we don't have that issue. So I can make a circular selection. I can also make a rectangular selection. And then another type that I can also make is a freehand selection. So right underneath of that rectangular marquee tool is the lasso tool. And the lasso tool is a freehand selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make an organic shape. And the thing about the lasso tool is that you have to come back to where you started. If you don't do that, it's not going to make a selection. And you can see I've got my dancing ants right here, and I'm going to go up to edit, copy. I'm going to go back to my collage document, and I'm going to paste in, and it looks like it went directly behind my portrait. So I'm going to click and drag it out. So now you can see I have a more of an organic element. Once again, I can drag this and kind of play with what's in the foreground, what's in the background. And so that's one way that you can make a freehand selection. Another type of selection that we can do is the polygonal tool. So this is great for shape-based, rectangular, or if you want a triangle, something like that, anything that is rectilinear. So the way that the polygonal lasso tool works is you'll click and then it'll drop a point. So you'll see there's a line. And I can go through and I can make really any type of shape that I worked with in Illustrator. The thing about the polygonal lasso tool is that you have to come back once again and connect that loop. And you'll know it's connected when you see that little circle go from not having a circle to having a little see-through circle. So I'm going to go back there. Once again, edit, copy, back to my original, edit, paste. And so what's nice is, let's say that that's not quite at the right angle that I want. What I can do is I can select that layer, Command T, I can rotate it as I need to. I can double click inside of it to apply that transformation, and then I can play with where I want to place it. Also, if you have a element that you want to repeat, don't feel like you have to copy and paste it a bunch of times. You can just simply hold down Option when you're on that layer, and then it'll duplicate it. And then since this isn't quite going in the right direction, I'm going to do Command T, once again, that freehand transform, and then I'll just rotate my element that way. And then that's a really fast, easy way for me to kind of go through and make multiple edits. The other thing that you can also play with in your composition is the blending modes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this circular element right here. And I can go to my different modes. So right here are my different modes. And what's nice is that as I hover over them, you can see how they're going to change. And so you can see that I have lighter ones and darker ones, ones that blend a little bit better. I would avoid the last third because these are kind of generic ones that kind of everybody plays with, and they kind of are kind of like beginning Photoshop, although luminosity is nice. I would play within kind of this range right here. You can also adjust the opacity right next to it, so I can go through and I can play with softening my image if I want to, or blending it a little bit better. And then once again, you can also use your blending modes as well. The other thing that I can also do is add a color to my background. So I'm going to double click my background. It'll ask if I want to call it layer 0, and I'll say OK. And then I'm going to go up to the paint bucket tool. And so there's also a gradient tool, which we can talk about as well. But the paint bucket tool, we can go down, and right here are colors, and we're going to double click. And then you're certainly welcome to use the color picker if you would like to. And you can just kind of drag it and see how that changes and say OK. And then making sure that you're on that background layer, I'm going to click and I'm going to fill it with a solid color. And then this is also a nice way to see how some of these blending modes work and how they function. So I can kind of go through and you can see how they're changing depending on what color they're on. So make sure that you save often as you're working. So I'm going to do Command S to save. Make sure that these documents you're saving as a Photoshop document, and I'll say save. And I'll go ahead and say OK for that one. And then you're in a good place to continue to work on your file for your collage project.